the Biden administration is planning on consuming the construction on portions of Trump's border wall. And remember, the promise during his campaigning was that he would abandon the construction of Trump's disastrous failed border wall, but that is not what's happening. According to the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, they're gonna go in a different direction. He told colleagues that Biden had frozen Department of Defense funding for the wall and said, but that leaves room to make decisions, in particular areas of the wall that need renovation, particular projects that need to be finished. So they're trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too, right? So the argument here is, well, we're gonna freeze the funding for the wall. We're just gonna spend funding on building out parts of the wall that aren't so great. Okay, so you're gonna spend funding on the wall. Let's don't play us, we're not stupid. We can see through this very clearly. Now, areas that Biden is considering fixing are the so-called gaps, okay? Actual gaps in the structure, unfinished gates, areas where the wall is built, but technology has not been installed yet. And so, look, all of the arguments that we made when Trump was in charge still apply. You can build the wall if you'd like, but in reality, that wall does very little to do away with what we're experiencing right now with migration, right? So are you gonna do anything about your foreign policy? No, doesn't look like it. Based on what we've seen from the Biden administration so far on foreign policy is a continuation of what Trump was doing. And of course, Trump was a continuation of what Obama was doing. And that list goes back many administrations. I mean, again, the wall is one thing. When you look at how most undocumented immigrants got into the country, they didn't come through the border. They came through flying here with a visa and staying here. So again, we are wasting resources on this nonsense. And on top of that, Biden is breaking a campaign promise by putting resources towards something that is bound to fail. I have more details, but Cenk, thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, and we're always honest on the show, I think this is a minor issue. And if they, patch up a couple of the parts of the wall, I don't really care too much. And the money's already been appropriated and they're trying to figure out how to move the money out. But what bothers me is the juxtaposition. So Kamala Harris recently said that they don't have time to decriminalize marijuana because of coronavirus and they're busy dealing with that. Well, first of all, decriminalizing marijuana takes about a sentence, if you want to be generous, a paragraph in an executive order, and you're done with it. So there, I solved it for you. You could now rest easy. You do it in about 5 minutes and go back to handling coronavirus. But now all of a sudden they do have time to finish parts of Trump's border wall. Wait, I thought you couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. So please spare me your BS excuses. You never meant it when you said you were gonna decriminalize marijuana. Joe Biden was the #1 advocate of the war on drugs. So their excusing of their inaction in other areas becomes particularly egregious when they bothered to help Trump build parts of his wall.
So let me make my case for why I think it actually is a big deal. But before I do so, I do want to remind the audience of what Biden campaigned on. Let's take a look.
Trump campaigned on build that wall. Are you willing to tear that wall down?
No, there will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration. #1.
Okay, so he lied. But why is he now deciding to put resources behind building parts of the wall? Well, I think that this is it reveals that he's been pressured by conservatives. Conservatives have been going after him over his response to immigration, and to be clear, he has not been great so far. So some of the critique has been justified, but the critique should be taken seriously when it comes from his supporters, his voters, from Democrats, not when it comes from conservatives who have all the wrong prescriptions for what we're experiencing at the border. So I feel like this is meant to, and I know this for a fact because I was listening to Ben Shapiro's podcast today, this is meant to appease the demands of conservatives. Why?
Yeah.
Why do that? Why cave to them? They're wrong on the issue.
Yeah, so Anna, the most disturbing part of this news story is me finding out that you were listening to Ben Shapiro's podcast earlier. I know why you're doing that, but Ben, you better be careful. But anyways, so back to Biden. I know why he's doing it. It's the border crisis, the so-called border crisis. And Fox News yelled at him enough, and then the rest of the media went along with it. And so now Biden thinks, I'm gonna relieve that pressure by building some of Trump's wall. Appeasement never works. All it does is confirm the point that your political opponent was making. Instead, you should shrug it off. And so guys, honestly, every day I'm more disappointed in politicians. I know it seems like a funny thing to say, but like they really barely have any idea what they're doing. So if Joe Biden came out and did a press conference, or his press secretary did, or anybody did, right? And said, here are the years that Trump had more immigrants crossing the border than we have right now. And give a giant time range, because it exists. It was 2019 and before that. And then say, okay, so I guess Trump was a disaster and he created a crisis, and that's probably still continuing today. And we're trying to clean up Trump's crisis. And these are facts. These are numbers of people who crossed the border in that date versus this date. So do your job and report how Trump created the border crisis. Otherwise, you guys aren't journalists. That's how you fight back. But Democrats are incapable of fighting back. And I now realize I was too tough on them. It's not that they're bad guys. It's just they're not very bright. They're just not that capable. They're like, I couldn't figure it out. I don't know how to fight back. So I appeased. I said, okay, I'll put in parts of the wall, and now I swear I'll be okay, conservatives. That's not how you win. It just isn't. It's never been. That's why corporate Democrats suck at this thing. And then, but to be fair, because that's what we do, and we do facts on this show. I want to point out the legalese that Biden used there. He said, I'm not going to build another foot of the wall. And now Jen Psaki will come out and say, no, technically, my kids say that, technically, we're patching up the other parts of the wall and we didn't add another foot to the wall. We just spent a lot of money filling the holes of the wall that currently exists and some of the technology, et cetera. So again, I'm consistent on it. I think the money spent there is tiny compared to the giant projects that are coming up. It's just the needless surrender is what's troublesome, as Anna pointed out.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.